was $3.50 for a box seat at the Coliseum. And you just look right over, this is the field, I'm like a little kid. It's okay to smoke, I see, baseball players.
I don't remember paying $3.50 for a Dodger dog.
Yeah. This is 1958, 1959, 1960. Then they used to park across the street, parking was important. People would just park your car, 50 cents to park your car. Right on the front yards.
Now it's $25.
Oh, it's the worst in San Francisco. Now, can you imagine this goose here?
But the players get paid, that's where the money's.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
I had a property right down the street from Camden Yard,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a rental property. And they could get 4 cars in there.
They do the same thing?
They rent it for $25 a spot.
For a couple hours. If you want a hot blacksmith, that's an extra $15.
I just told the tenants, if they tear up the grass, it's your responsibility. You know?
So that's really filled one time, the same thing along there. People were charging the parking for their places too.
And then Tracy and I's first house was right at the gates, downtown Annapolis, right at the gates to Naval Academy. And we had a 1-car parking spot. I used to, every time I'd come home and there was a game, I'd be, can't find a place to park anywhere in town.
Yeah.
Because we had 2 cars.
Wrigley Field, where the Angels used to play the Hollywood Stars.
Yeah, we're sending,
It's the original, it's modeled after the Chicago Wrigley Field. Over in left field, 17,000 seats there. Over the wall in left field, people would put chairs on their roof and sit and watch the game.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, back then, everything was close.
I think we're gonna go ahead and start. It's 5:33, and we do have a quorum, and I believe Mr. Redford has entered in Zoom. So I'm going to call the regular board meeting for March 17th, 2021 to order at 5:34 p.m. And I would like to ask Mr. DeAmber, Director DeAmber, to lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, go ahead, do roll call.
No, the light's not.
Hey Rick, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Yes.
Okay, and hello, Rick, and hello, Director Redford. We're going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing.
Speaking, everyone.
Can you say it again? Oh, good evening. Okay, so before we go into public comment, are any of our directors have anything? Oh, I thought maybe you guys did a roll call.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Director Jones,
Here.
Director Beard,
Here.
Director DeAmbra,
Here,
Director Redford,
Here.
Director Van Pelt.
Yes, so we do have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and I would ask the directors, including Director Redford, who is with us via Zoom, if they have anything that they would like to report that's not on the agenda, anything that's of interest to our district, any meetings, this would be the time to mention it. Don't see anyone who wants to make a comment, so we will move on now to public comment. And we do have a couple of people in the room. If you would like to comment on something in general that is not on the agenda, this would be a time. You could raise your hand or let me know. Oh, okay, here's a gentleman. Did you want to make a public comment? Yes, okay, and we have somebody at the meeting who would like to make a public comment.
Okay, I'm Joe Bargett, I'm the general manager of Vandenberg Village Community Services District. Just came here to listen to the Tuckdale's rate study presentation, but I did notice on your agenda you had some items dealing with CSDA. I'm a big fan of CSDA. They offer some training called the Special District Leadership Academy. It's a really good training. When he's been to it, I've been to it. It's great for a director, particularly a new director, or an old director as well, and management level staff. So I've got 2 directors from Vandenberg that are going in September, and like top
I've been thinking about that. I think that's great. I've heard nothing but wonderful things, so thank you for letting us know. Are there any other public comments? Okay, then we will go to consent items. And this is approval of our regular board meeting minutes of February 17th, approval of the special meeting of March 10th. We are also going to be approving the, I need a motion to approve the treasurer's dashboard report for February. Everyone has received a copy of this in your packet. If you have any questions or would like to make any changes, now is the time to do it. Okay, well then, what we will do is, I will ask for somebody to please give me a motion to pass the consent agenda as written.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Director Redfern was raising his hand, as you said, so how about Director
Second.
Beer made the motion, we'll let Director Redfern, would you like to second the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so Wendy, we have a first and a second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director Redfern to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Deambra.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Redfern.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we can see, okay, Bradley, Director Van Pelt will be zoning it now. So he's not on there yet.
Okay, so I should leave this up.
When it turns to 6, he'll be on there. So we can continue.
Okay, so we are going to go ahead now to the action items on our agenda. And the district's attorney, Frank Battle, is on the phone listening. And then we also have Clayton Tuckfield here to present the work that he did for the rate study. So, okay, did you have anything you wanted to say first, Jose?
No, I just want to mention, Mr. Battle, this legal counsel will be on the call for the first 2 items on the agenda, which is review and discuss the rate study and also the transfer of the bank accounts for the SYCSD.
Would that be a good time to have Mr. Battles do his legal report?
Yes, Mr. Battle will give his legal report at the conclusion of the staff report or the discussion for the bank accounts.
Okay, does that work for you, Mr. Battles?
Rick, can you hear us?
Could I possibly have him muted? I don't think so.
At least he's on the phone.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Yes, I was able to hear you. That sounds fine.
okay,
Thank you.
very good. Then, well, I'll turn over to Jay and you can introduce Mr. Tuckfield.
Okay, so, good evening, board. This evening, we have Mr. Tuckfield here from Tuckfield and Associates. He has completed the rate study. If you remember, he was here last month, gave the preliminary presentation, took back the suggestions of the board, compiled the final rate study and final presentation for this evening. So that's what Mr. Tuckfield will be discussing with the board this evening, and he'll be presenting the final rate study that will be presented for the board as well, or for the public as well. We also will need to discuss tonight setting up and conducting a Prop 218 vote and study. We're looking to do that hopefully at the May board, in May, completing that. And Rick and I did discuss this, so I feel if we do Prop 218 this year, we get out to the public to give them an opportunity to dissent against the rate study. It's a perfect opportunity to get it out this year, get all 5 years approved, and get the rate study finalized. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Tuckfield, and he can go on ahead and start with the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Costa.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm pleased to make this presentation. I'd like to thank the board and district staff for allowing me to perform this study for the district. Some of this might be something you've already seen because I've talked about this on the last meeting, but this will be kind of like a final discussion of what we have, what we're presenting, and what the district plans to move forward with. So if you look at slide 2, for the rate study objectives, it's not only looking at the rate study itself, but we're also looking at the Horizon line capacity charge. And this is the capacity charge you would charge those customers that would use the Horizon line. So that's part of the study we're doing. Secondly, we're going to estimate the annual revenue that we would receive from those customers, including the Horizon capacity charge, the district's capacity charge, and the annexation charges. Now, the district also plans to allow those customers to finance those three charges at 1% plus the prime rate. Also, we will then determine the rate increases that will move forward to fund the wastewater operations and the district's capital improvement program. So let's look at slide 3. In its simplest form, the Horizon capacity charge is the cost to serve those 20 units divided by the customer. So it ends up being about $40,000 per single family dwelling unit. Now, what we wanted to do is evaluate whether that was high enough to cover the district's costs, including the financing of the customer charges, because you won't get the money up front. You'll now get this as a payment stream over time, and whether that's time value of money such that is the present value of that stream sufficient that you would recover your costs. So let's look at the next slide, slide 4. This is the calculations that we did to verify if the district would be able to meet its obligations from that, and would there be sufficient funds received to pay for the Horizon line at $40,000 per customer. So what we found is that it does appear that with the annual cash flow that you would be positive from that cash flow, and then the net present value basis you would also be positive. So this indicates, I think, 40,000 is sufficient based upon the assumption that 4 customers would connect every year for the next 5 years. Now, obviously, we can't guarantee that, but we think that based on the cash flow, there's some sufficient cash that you would have if a customer delayed, or maybe several customers delayed. I think you're going to be okay. And that's kind of, I realize that you can't guarantee people connecting, as we discussed last time, but this is the current plan we discussed with district staff and district board. Now, the district plans to finance that Horizon Line project with CSDA funds. My understanding is they gave them the district a commitment letter where they could receive the funds at an interest rate of 3% for a 20-year period. And my understanding that is still valid, and the district plans to move forward with that.
Yes, we will be reaching out to CSDA to get a new commitment letter, a cover sheet with the current interest rate right now. We're hoping that it either drop or stay the same at this time. So we'll be reaching out to them and bringing that back to the board.
Okay, let's look at slide 5. Now, this is intended to show you what the financing of all 3 of those charges would be: the Horizon Line capacity charge, the district's capacity charge, and the annexation fee. So if you finance that at the proposed 4.25%, 20 years, you would have the payment stream shown in the yellow column. Now, that's the payment stream that's going to feed into the wastewater financial plan. So as I mentioned before, you're not getting this all cash up front. You're getting this as a payment stream over time because you're allowing these customers to finance that. Now, just as a kind of a comparison of what it might be, on the very right-hand column, it's about $300 a month is what the customer would be paying when he connects up and finances all these fees. Now, as you can see, that increases over time. So the idea is that if they delay, it only gets more expensive to connect up. So this is kind of an encouragement for them to connect up as soon as possible.
Before we go on to the next slide, I do want to state that the cost for the abandonment of your septic system and your lateral installment are not included in this financing charges, which is a decision that the board had discussed at a previous board meeting as well. So I just want to reiterate that tonight.
Thank you.
So our previous discussion then led to a payment stream from those financing of those charges, which now feeds into the wastewater rate study, which we'll continue with on page 6. So for the rate study, our assumptions are that we have those 4 customers that connect for the next 5 years for a total of 20 customers. That the district will finance that, or offer financing for the Horizon capacity annexation charges at 1% plus prime. Interest earnings on district funds is 0.25% annually. That may go higher, but for conservative approach, I think this is reasonable for now. Interest rates are, if I could predict interest rates, I'd be going to Las Vegas, but I can't do that. So it's tough to say what the interest rates are going to do. But let's be conservative and use 0.25%. I've also assumed that expenses would inflate at the following increases. Salary and benefits would inflate 4% annually. Electricity and chemicals would inflate at 5% annually. And at the Solvang wastewater treatment plant costs would inflate at 7% annually. All other costs would inflate at 2%. As I mentioned before, the CSDA would be providing financing for that Horizon Line project. District expects to receive about $800,000 in proceeds from that at 3% in 20 years. And the rates developed in this study are intended to fund the entire CIP as provided from the district, except for the stadium extension and west side extensions. And we excluded those because of the unsure nature of when those timing of those products would occur. So I think that we discussed last time, when those became more clear, when they actually might occur, you might have to update this study at that time.
The question for, we used 4 kind of bantered back and forth because nobody knows.
Right.
What are those, happens to those numbers? Let's say we break it in half at 2.
Mm-hmm.
2 a year.
Right.
These numbers, cost of doing business numbers on the right, that's a static number for the most part. That's not going to change. The only thing that'll truly change there would be the income we receive monthly per year, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
basically 50% of that.
Right.
Okay.
So in a combination of things there, that if it turns out to be less than what we're talking about, you have cash reserves that would get you through those periods of time, which I'll show you in those slides. Yeah, and so that's the point of keeping reserves. In tough times, you've got cash on hand to meet the obligations, and then when times are good, you put more money away than you thought. So you've got this kind of balance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I like preparing for the worst.
I understand. Okay, let's look at slide 7. So just speaking of that cash, this is the district's reserve policy on how much cash they want to keep on hand. The district has 4 reserve funds that they want to keep, including the operating reserve, and the amount to be kept is, according to district policies, 180 days of the O&M expense. The building reserve at $140,000, excuse me, the district policy. The replacement expansion reserve, which is defined as the sum of the next 10 years CIP, excluding the Horizon Stadium West Side extension lines, because they're very significant expenses, only one time. And we have a future capacity reserve where we're keeping 10% of the cost of purchase capacity in the Solvang treatment plant. Now, what that all amounts to is, on the right-hand side, you'll see a chart. The red column indicates the beginning balance as of July 1st, 2020, and a comparison to the reserve target based on the policy we just discussed. So the district currently has about $4.4 million on hand versus a target about 6.5. Now, like I mentioned, you're a little bit low right now, but things go up and down. So this is just a point in time as of June 30, 2020. And this money will be spent as we keep going forward in the rate study on the following projects as shown on slide 8. So slide 8 presents the capital improvement spending program. You can see at the top there are a number of Solvang projects that the district must pay its fair share of. You can see that line in years 3 and 4, there's significant expenditures there, about $2.5 million. About $780,000 the first year. So there's significant cash outlay that's going to occur from the district funds. Down below that, you'll see the district's projects, number of replacements, excuse me, and that Horizon Line project. So the district's financial plan takes this into account, and the money coming in from wastewater rates, in addition to reserves, will pay for this capital improvement program. So let's move on to slide 9. This presents the wastewater financial plan and the district's cash reserves as we move forward through time. What we proposed here was that last time we looked at discussing several options. The district selected this particular option where we would have no increase this next July, but we would have an increase the following July and each year thereafter for a 5-year period. Now, looking at the wastewater financial plan, you can see we have O&M expense, the tribe expense, the Horizon loan, debt service, and we also have in the green capital spending. So this is capital spending in addition to the normal replacement that would occur Now, what this means is those lines in green are above the red line, which indicates that's cash going out that you're not collecting enough money for. So if you look at the right-hand side, you'll see the cash versus the target reserve. So the green columns then decrease these first 4 years because you're spending more than you're taking in and with the cash. So your cash position decreases. Then as we raise rates going forward at 4.25%, we start putting some money back, such that by the 10th year, we're almost where we were to begin with the 10th year. So I just want to point out that we are drawing down the cash, and then we're going to be putting it back. Okay, let's look at slide 10. So this is give you an idea what the monthly bill will look like with these increases. So on the first year, you can see there is no change because we decided to keep it no increase. And then they increase at 4.25% a year as we move forward, such that, well, you can take a look and see what the impact is moving forward with these rate increases. Slide 11, I prepared a comparison to see where your bill is compared with other communities local to Sandy and Nez. What this does show is that even with the current bill, you're at towards the higher end of the spectrum here for monthly bills. And then with the increase, you're in the same position, essentially, still near the top. So I would point out that the district is subject to Solvang for its treatment. And so somewhat limited as far as what you can do. So with that, that concludes the presentation. If there's any questions, then I'll be glad to answer those.
Director Redford has a comment or question.
On our assumption that we're going to add four homes, and that's all off of Horizon, I think that's a little on the low side just because we have vacant lots in town that are getting ready to be developed. We have the potential of more than 4 for sure.
I agree with you, Director Redford. I was thinking the same thing, but what Mr. Tuckfield is doing, or his approach has been worst possible scenario kind of thing. But
Okay.
I agree with you. There is zero inventory on the market, and I shared with Director D'Ambra earlier that my son just sold his house off Deer Trail, and the only concession he made to the buyers was paying for them to put in a new septic tank. And so when you're buying a house that is 30 or living in a house 30 years old, there's a good chance it will sell in the next couple of years, and people will have that option.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I think only if it's more than 4, then that's to the betterment of the district. So
Yes.
if that actually occurs.
But I believe that you were talking about just Horizon,
Yes.
correctly? Correct?
Yeah, you can't take an existing, he's gonna pay a hookup charge only, the lot over here behind the red barn. Okay, he's not gonna pay $40,000, $80,000, whatever it is. The sewer system runs right past his place. So he's basically got 2 different worlds, Horizon,
Right.
building a system.
The 4
May
hookups.
I need to clarify, because then I hear what I said. This is Director Jones. That I believe that those houses on Horizon are going to sell. I'm saying that there are a lot of people selling their homes right now. And so that's just the age of that neighborhood. And I'm saying on Horizon Drive, my son's buyer did not have the option of hooking up to sewer. I would bet when a house sells on Horizon Drive and sewer is available, I think that they would opt for going on sewer rather than getting a new septic put in.
Right.
That's my belief.
If I can clarify, I believe
Yes.
Director Red, from what you're saying, is that there may be more than 4 hookups throughout the township of San Ynez. The study that Mr. Tuckfield's presenting is only for the Horizon Drive residents, those 20 residents, and he's estimating at 4 per year. As Mr. D'Ambra asked earlier, it was 2 per year. So that scenario could change just for Horizon. All the other people who connect would be a different revenue stream from the Horizon project.
That is
Doesn't this rate study cover the all 1,200 homes or all 1,200 homes?
It does, but many of the homes that have the availability that are not on sewer now to hook up on Horizon Drive are the numbers we're talking about, how we're gonna pay for this $800,000. And the money's
The
gonna
floor
come back
was
to us.
just specifically for Horizon Drive. He hasn't even talked about the rest of it yet. Correct?
Okay, we've assumed 4 per year for 5 years.
Just
So they're
Horizon.
gonna, well, they will also be paying the wastewater charges.
Right.
So you can assume that 4 people have connected to the sewer system in its entirety and also paying for the Horizon charges. Yeah.
Director Redfern, does that answer your question, or?
Sure, as long as that is only for Horizon, I think then it's accurate, but yeah, I just thought it was for the whole township.
Well, the township, the district that is currently hooked up to sewer, we are using the reserves from those customers to invest in this main line, even though.
I understand that.
So that's why I say it applies to everyone in terms of that's the district's money, but the money going out, coming back in will be for houses from Horizon. I think it will probably be, I think that's a very conservative estimate and it's a good way to go.
So Director Redfern, you're correct. The rate study is for all 1,200 connections. And within our budgeting process, we estimate when we set our budget of how many people we anticipate connecting. We set those as other revenues within the budget. So that's what Mr. Tuckfield utilized was our past budget, current budget, and hopefully future budget. So yes, it is inclusive of all customers for the whole rate study.
So we're still just figuring 4 houses per year.
No, sir. We'll set those when we set the budget. We will say how many houses we're anticipating connecting during that year as development occurs outside of Horizon Drive. When Mr. Tuckfield saying 4 residents per year, that is specific to this part of the rate study, which is specific to Horizon Drive. The rest of the study covers everyone else.
All right, I understand.
Does anyone else have a question or comment?
You're suggesting that we should, at minimum, have 4 million in reserves and target it at 6.5.
Well, your actual is 4 million in reserves.
Our actual is 4
Yeah,
million.
and the target is 6.5. That's right.
Target is 6.5,
So you're
we're underfunded or under reserves.
according to your reserve policy we adopted.
Okay.
I also think that it's interesting and worth noting that currently the people that are in our district pay more than anyone except for people who live in the Montecito district. It's very tough. We're already paying a lot. So I think that's where Director DeAmbro is coming from when he asked that we pass for a year. But yeah, that's a lot of money when you just compare it to what other people are paying.
So other agencies are going to be going through a rate study. City of Salt Lake, Mr. Joe Orgett has expressed that he's getting ready to do rate study. So these numbers could shrink, they could increase based off of their rate studies as well. So we have to remember that as well.
Only if they double what they charge, because even if, Vandenberg Village, well, not them doubling it, but, Puelton, Santa Maria, the people that are, 40 a month.
They're
Correct.
Yeah.
They're still under us even if they double.
That is correct.
Yes. So I just like to make that point that our customers definitely pay a higher rate than usual. We have a public comment here.
Yeah, so along the same lines we're looking at, I don't mean to put Mr. Tuckfield on the spot, but like you look at, I know I'm sensitive to rates too, my directors are, how are we comparing to everybody else on your chart here? It shows for Vandenberg Village, 55 a month. That's only one component of our sewer charge. The other component is a bond charge that we paid for it's collected on the tax rolls. We do, thanks to Wendy helped us do that. So our total monthly sewer cost is actually $75 a month.
Oh, well, that's very important to know. It's comparable, it's almost the same amount.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're $1 less than where you are right now. And there's a guy, I'll give this to Mr. Tuckfield, Marty Wilder, he's the general manager of the Union County Sanitation District. He does his own little rate study. It's pretty good because there are 7 districts in the county that get a slight as bad as this chart looks. I'll give this one a try. Give me a call, right? Share more information.
Yeah, let me make a comment on that, in that these rates that I presented here are what's provided as for each entity would give me these numbers. So he is correct. Some costs do get put on property tax roll, which are not reflected in here. So I'm not sure, I guess if you had somebody already looking at this, we can add this and we can revise this with property taxes.
That's exactly what the water district does here.
Yeah,
We have a bond.
I think that's more accurate than,
Yeah.
you know,
So it's kind of, is that the way we want to reflect, because it would encompass probably all costs, but it's a different method of collecting. So when you obviously when you present it this way, it looks like some agencies are doing very well, whereas others are not. So it's kind of a how you want to present it.
yeah. What we're charging is our complete charge.
Correct.
So I'd rather have apples to apples than oranges to apples.
I agree.
You know,
So if we do modify this again, we bring it back to the April board meeting,
Well,
finalization, or what's your suggestion?
nothing will change other than this particular picture.
So the board could approve it tonight, just stating, we'll approve the rate study with these modifications made tonight, or request made tonight.
Right, but Mr. Tuckfield will send an updated comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Director Jones, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you have a comment, Director Van Pelt?
Yeah, thanks. I just a quick question. From a percentage standpoint on the monthly bill, what cost from a percentage standpoint gets funneled into the solving waste and treatment plant? I guess what's that service charge on a monthly bill percentage wise?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this over to Wendy because I think she can answer.
The sewer fees go into operation, and then anything over anything over the net income goes into the fund replace expansion reserve, because all the other reserves are funded. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. I was actually just from a customer standpoint. If I was, I pay a monthly bill for sewer. I'm just wondering how much percentage wise goes into solving for their treatment of our water and our waste.
That's an easy one. It's our 20,000 a month payment, and so we are on the hook for 20%, right?
Yeah, we're on the hook for 20% of the, well, I shouldn't say 20%. We are on the hook for expenses to Solvang based on our flows, and it's typically anywhere from 19% to 19.89%.
Okay.
And then anything over anything over 50,000 for the capital projects is actually 20%. So you're looking at every year we put into reserves anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000.
So, Mr. Van Pelt, I understand your question. Like if you're paying $76 a month, how much of that goes towards solving? Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And I don't think we have that exact figure here tonight, but as Wendy explained, our total budget, we do send 20% of their overall fees to them. We provide a $20,000 a month deposit on that end amount and then pay the difference. And we'll be elaborating on that at the end of the meeting as well with the staff report on that. So there's not a definitive number we can provide tonight to say 25% of that goes to solving.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I just wondered if a resident asked me, how much, why does their bill increase and what percentage is going where, it would be very convenient to provide information that, frankly, that it's solving that we're paying X percentage of that bill towards for the service their sewer water. But that answers it. Question. Thanks for clarifying that. And
We can get that for last year, and then we can predict it for this year.
I think that's helpful because as we raise rates, we're going to get a lot of questions. That's why it's nice to do the apples to apples comparison. And just in my way, I would think about 20% of my bill goes to the treatment and the rest goes to collection. my bill, would you say that's roughly true? Like if I'm paying 76, then $15 of that goes to Solvang?
I have to calculate it out.
Because are we giving them money other than the money that we pay?
Yeah, so we have, so as for example, Director Van Pelt, we have on the agenda a check going to Solvang for approval for $89,000, which is our total expenses for the last fiscal year for 1920. And that's anything over the $20,000 per month that we give them, and then their capital projects that they spend, they bill us annually at the end of the year once they finalize their books.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll try to figure out a figure and bring that back to the next board meeting to present that for your information, Mr. Van Pelt.
I would
Okay.
appreciate that also, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Does anyone else have any questions about the presentation? Gary? Okay. Well, if we have discussed this thoroughly, and I don't see anyone else, is there anyone, Neil, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Let me just ask, this is the first time I've kind of seen numbers for the homeowners to connect to the Horizon line once it's up and running. So if I'm understanding it correctly, it seems like it's $40,000 per homeowner. And based on that presentation, it breaks down to about $300 a month over a 20-year period.
Yes, if you borrow the money, because actually, 48 and the extra 8
Is
what?
the district fee.
Okay.
So the 40,000 pays for the line, and then the other $8,332 are the capacity costs.
To the, okay. So the person hooking up is looking at very close to $50,000.
$48,332 the first year. And each year it will continue to increase.
Okay, and so if a homeowner, though, opted not to finance and just paid all at once, that would be an option?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Because you're new, we do have an installment payment plan that you could sign up for, and that would be 1% over prime for 20 years.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Does that answer everyone's questions? Is it time to move on?
Director Jones,
Yes.
this is Rick.
Oh, yes. You have some comments to make, of course. Thank you. Go
I
ahead.
had sent Clayton, I reviewed the rate study. I sent Clayton a few questions this morning, and I'm just wondering if you had a chance to look at them or give some thought to them yet. Did you see that email, Clayton?
Yes, I did.
Is there anything that needs to be addressed at the meeting tonight before the study is approved based on the questions that are raised?
As far as the text edits you provided, yeah, that's no problem to go ahead and address those in the report, and I'll fix those up as well as provide a new bill comparison. Your other comments between single family and multifamily, those are typically addressed in master planning when they're trying to estimate how much additional capacity might be required. They look at the various customer classes and they estimate what the flow is from those classes. So as far as rate studies go, we generally follow what the master plan says. So I discussed that with Jose before coming in here, and my understanding is that master planning documents haven't been changed or have been updated for quite a while. So we're still using what was done back at the time that it was originally set. So
okay. And yeah, there have been some developments in the industry in this regard, and I don't know whether it's time yet for us to change our approach to looking at single family versus multifamily. I mentioned to Jose, there was a case that was recently decided where the challenge was to using the same rate for single family and multifamily, and the case cited a study which said that multifamily use less water should have a lower rate, and just, so it may be moving in that direction. It may not, we may not have the data. We don't have the new master plan to make a change. So I guess it's okay to stick with our existing master plan and our existing model right now, without doing a new study though. I think we don't know whether or not we might be subject to a challenge based on, our assumptions not lining up with the current reality in terms of, relative flows from one type of use versus another. But so maybe the question was, that would make me feel comfortable not looking into it further would be, you're seeing other agencies still these days continuing to use same rate, same assumptions for multifamily and single family?
Yeah, some continue to do that. I would, maybe for this community, for example, there's probably not a lot of large families where you see a lot of kids. So most of the people might be the same density per household, like, I don't know, 2.3 persons per household in single family, and probably similar with multifamily, simply because you don't see those large families. So because of that, you might experience wastewater flow being the same out of a single family home as it would from a multifamily dwelling unit. I don't know those statistics here, like I said. And secondly, you don't really measure wastewater flow, so we kind of have to rely on the planning documents when it comes to situations like that.
Okay.
When you say multifamily, you're talking about charging the same to a duplex as you do to a single family home? Or you're talking about
Well,
apartment?
Your current rates do show multifamily as same charge as single family. I think there might be some that are charged differently, but I can't recall off the top of my head at the moment.
That's a bag of worms, because right now everything is massive high density, i.e. low cost housing. Perfect example is Rona Barrett, that's 6 acres full, which was zoned 1E1, that's 1 unit per acre plus a secondary unit, so maximum 12. That's already 96 units on that same 6 acres. That was the master plan. So master plans are a joke now. The state comes in, as you know, and they give density bonuses to the developer. They're trying to manage the demand criteria for housing, so they're allowing densities at all-time highs. So that's, the plan, the general plan specific to this valley is history.
Well, let's be careful about mixing the type of plans, because when I say master plan, I'm talking about the wastewater system master plan, not
the valley plan.
correct. Yeah.
But it ultimately feeds into the use, the flow of the wastewater, and thus the cost and expenses that are going to consistently go up, because we're putting more demand on that system with more people coming into a smaller area. The area's the constant here, right? The fact is we're having, instead of 2 people per single family dwelling per quarter acre, we're gonna have 8 to 12. And that's where the cost is going. We need to look at that as a managing factor, and it's already here, but we don't look at it cost-wise because it's in its infancy, if you will, but it's right across from the high school. 96 units or 6 units were zoned for when everything was calculated out. So I'm just saying that we need to think about that.
It will be addressed one way or another, because if it's a problem, it's just going to keep being a problem.
Exponentially
Yes.
getting worse. You have that problem in Longville too, I bet.
I was good at this. Maybe I can offer you my experience. Vandenberg Village, we have 2,600 single-family houses, and we have 411 condo and apartments. When I got there, we had this complicated rate structure that gave condos and apartments a vacancy and occupancy factor, and it was really complicated. And I couldn't defend myself. And I saw an apartment with 4 people in it that are generating more sewage than a single-family house with 1 person in it. So as a district, we have no control, and the amount of people living in a house or apartment fluctuates greatly, wildly all over time. So we changed our rate structure. We treat an apartment, a condo, and a house as equal. And it makes it simple. makes it defendable, because, you know, we really got a lot of single family or single household people in houses that are producing much less sewage than an apartment with 6 people in it. So, I mean, yeah, that's how we do it. I think that's the simplest, most defendable way to do it.
Per unit, not per.
Per unit, yes, per unit, yes, per unit. Whether it's an apartment unit, a common unit, or a single family house. On the water side, you can give breaks for meter sizes and flows, but on sewer, since we don't meter sewage, it's make it equal. Just 1 meter is 1 unit, whatever happens, right? It happens to be.
And it seems that that's what the district is undertaking at this time. Set one rate for multifamily and single families.
Yeah.
Okay,
Rick, do you have anything?
And my question to Clayton on that was, you know, given the fact that our master plan may now be out of date, I don't know how long ago it might have been done, does Clayton feel it's reasonable to have the same rate for single family and multifamily based on his experience in doing rate studies generally?
Well, just off the top of my head, I can recall, like at Tascadero, they're assuming 240 gallons a day up there. So, and I would say they're probably outdated, but 215 might still be within the reasonable realm. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what I need to hear, because I know that there are flow studies underway and with water conservation efforts and everything, that 215 number might be high these days. But if you're still seeing numbers out there like that, I've got agencies that I represent that do it both ways, same rate for multifamily and different rates for multifamily. So I'm really just asking the question as to whether or not, just to confirm that you think that's still a reasonable approach.
Yeah, well, it depends on the community, and I think we just heard from Vandenberg Village that, you know, that's the approach they're taking because of maybe their specific situation. Perhaps when this was set up, that's what the situation here at Santa Ynez, and without any other, like I said, planning documents to say otherwise, you don't have any necessarily water consumption data that would indicate that. And as we all were talking a minute ago, we don't measure wastewater flow. So I think it's a good approach at the moment until there's some other additional information that comes to light.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So if there are no other questions or discussion from anyone, I would ask that we approve the final draft of the 2021 wastewater rate study, and I need a motion. So go ahead, General Manager.
The recommendation would be to approve the final draft rate study, the 2021 wastewater rate study, with the recommendations made by the board and legal counsel.
Oh, okay, that's right. That you were going to give us some additional information and things you and Rick talked about, that we would like a motion to approve this rate study, including the changes discussed by the board.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Director DeAmber has made a motion that we approve the final draft of the 2021 wastewater rate study with the changes discussed. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Director Van Pelt has seconded, so Wendy.
We have a motion by Director DeAmber and a second by Director Van Pelt to approve the rate study as presented by Clayton Tubfield with the recommended changes by the board and legal counsel. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beer.
Aye.
Director DeAmber.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Director Redfern.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good, thank you.
So at this time, I want to thank Mr. Clayton Tuffield for coming out this evening and for last month as well. And we look forward to seeing that final presentation. Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice drive back.
Thank you, Clayton.
And
Bye,
thank you.
Joe.
Thanks, Judge.
It was really great having you.
Well, wait,
See you, Judge.
You go to Newport Beach?
Yeah.
Remember the speed limit on 405, right under 75, so try to keep up. Thank you.
Next on the agenda for action items is a review, discussion, and authorization of the district's bank accounts. I will remember if you're there, Mr. Battles, but I will turn this over to Wendy or General Manager Acosta, you can start us here.
So I'll go to start us off. The board did approve us to research, looking into other bank accounts based off of the fees and charges that were being currently charged with Mechanics Bank. And so Wendy has undertaken this task, been working on it for the last several months. We presented the findings at the Finance Committee. They made recommendations, they made suggestions at the Finance Committee. And so what Wendy's going to do tonight, she'll present the staff report, presenting her findings on several banks that she reached out to, the information she's obtained from those banks, and look for the board to provide direction on making this transition to a new bank. And then provide any input on, we need to do an ordinance or a resolution on this as well. So I'll go ahead and turn over to Wendy right now.
Okay, and I'd also like to hear from the Finance Committee and get their recommendations.
Okay, so approximately 6 months ago, Mechanics Bank took over from Rabobank, and when we were with Rabobank, we had a monthly maintenance fee of anywhere from $75 to $115, depending on how many wires we had and how many ACH transactions we did and how many bill pays we did. When Mechanics Bank took over, when they started adjusting their fees, we went on an analysis schedule. And what that does is that takes every transaction, whether it's a deposit or a check or an ACH transfer, they calculate how many transactions we have, and then they give us, depending on our balance, they give us a earned credit fee, an earned credit, and then with that earned credit, it's deducted from all the charges that we get. And it took me 5 or 6 months to finally get a hold of somebody that would talk to me about why our fees increased so much. And nobody ever called, nobody ever said anything about us being put on analysis, which doubled our fees. And so I did get a credit for the last 5 months. We got half of our money back, so it was like $565 or $540 that we got as a credit. So that prompted me to look at the other banks to see what we were being charged, because we have almost $600,000 with Mechanics Bank, and they're charging us, and we do our interest, but that interest is offset by the fees that we have to pay. And so it's based on our balance, and so in order to be 100% feeless from Mechanics Bank, we have to have $1,027,000 in our account that they get to use in order for us to not develop any fees. So I reached out to several banks. I reached out to First Bank and Montecito Bank and Trust. And with public funds for the new, for you, Director Van Pelt, our money has to be collateralized because it's public funds, which means the bank has to hold 110% to our with our money. So not very many banks can do that, and First Bank is not able to do that, and Montecito, they can do that. So with Montecito, they would put us on an analysis as well, and we would have to have approximately $550,000 in the accounts to generate no fees at Montecito Bank and Trust. So then I reached out to Five Star Bank, where we have our money market account, where we have our $4 million, and he said that we would get everything for free, and any wires, any ACH transactions, anything that we needed, we would have absolutely no fees. And one of the reasons is because we have our $4 million with them. And there's the benefit to having a local bank is local. We can run to the bank, we can get cash, but we have to spend time taking our deposits there. With Five Star, they would supply us with a machine that we would send the checks through and they would automatically be credited to our account. One issue with that is we wouldn't have access to cash. So we talked to the finance committee. They talked about possibly getting a debit card with only authorization for Jose and myself to pull out cash if we needed to, and pay the fee at the ATM if we had to. We only have $150 in petty cash, and we haven't used that in probably 8 months, 9 months at least. Jose has never signed a petty cash slip that I'm aware of, if I remember right. So we don't generate a lot of cash. So I think it's in the district's best interest to possibly move the accounts. Of course, it's up to the board. We do have to make sure that the funds are collateralized because it's public funds. So with that, I'll turn it over to the finance committee and then Rick can weigh in. And see if you guys have any questions.
The finance committee, recommended that we change over to 5-star, and as long as there's not a problem with it, they could have a debit card that, once a year, twice a year, that if we needed to, they could pull out cash. And the bank fees are $3, compared to several hundred a month. I think it works out better going with 5-star. Any other questions?
And the other thing, you weren't very happy with the customer service that you got from Kansas Bank. You thought you had to chase them down for answers.
Yeah, not the staff over at the local bank is absolutely fabulous. It's the it's the corporate, people. I found out that our representative was no longer working at the bank, and they had just formulated this group analysis group because they were, everybody's fees went up. So one thing that I do have to stress is that we get our big lump sum money in April, and so this would be probably a 2-month process. We have to bring it back. I do believe we should bring back a resolution to the board authorizing us to open up 2 new accounts. So we wouldn't automatically close our account and transfer, all our money. We have to keep our account here open for several months. That way we have a smooth transition. Because in April probably 20th, we'll get our big lump sum money, and that's about $600,000. So we would keep that open because we have to.
It's auto transferred.
Yeah, it's automatically transferred, and I did actually get the forms from the county to change. So I do have those. So Rick, do you have any comments?
I don't see any particular legal issues with changing bank accounts other than what you and I had talked about and what you shared with the board, and that is we should have a formal resolution to authorize it, and that will also document it. Going back, looking at the resolutions that the district has adopted in the past relating to bank accounts, I count 18 resolutions going back on my list of bank-related resolutions authorizing accounts, changing signatories. So that has been our practice in the past, and so we bring back a simple resolution to authorize the change in the banking account, if that's the desire of the board.
Well, I think there probably is going to be consensus from the board based on what the financial committee told us in Wendy's presentation, but we should probably go ahead and get a motion to go with the consensus just to keep a record of it. And Director Van Pelt, do you have any questions or comments? No? Okay. And Director Redfern?
We can, at least I can only hear about half of what Wendy says and almost nothing of what Jose says. So I don't know what we do about that.
I know one thing, after the meeting, I'm going to play them a little clip off the YouTube channel so you can hear how you sound compared to other people in the room. because it might help you come up with a suggestion. It's not just closeness to the mic. We can do better, I know. So I apologize, but we're working on it.
It's better than it was.
That's a low bar. Yes, Director Van Pelt.
Yeah, sorry, something did come to mind when did the finance committee look at the benefits of, say, Montecito Bacon Trust being the other local bank, of maybe the future benefits of having our money at a banking institution like Montecito Bacon Trust? I bring it up just kind of in the context of if the board ever decides that we want to pursue other latent powers that we potentially could, would there be benefits in having the money at Montecito? Not for just the current, situation, but for the future situations that board might be, having to deal with. Does that make sense at all?
I would say it would be violence, but we have other outlets with better rates.
Director Beard is addressing your question.
Okay.
Did you hear what he said?
Yeah, I can hear him. I can hear him slightly.
Okay, so I had similar feelings also, because I'm a big fan of local economies, and generally you do get good service from local banks, and I appreciate you talking to Montecito. 5 Star has been really good for us in a financial way, and he gets good service from them. But
They pay better interest.
yeah, it comes down to a dollars and cents thing. But there are reasons why sometimes you don't go with the best financially. Sometimes I understand what you're asking. But so all of our money will be with 5 Star. We won't even keep anything locally.
And they're federally insured.
Montecito
Yes,
or 5 Star?
Yeah, but because of public funds, they have to do the collateralization.
That's all I want to make sure.
And Montecito Trust, Banking Trust could do that. But what was
Yes.
the downside with them?
Other than, yeah, they charge us fees, but if we have a balance in there, then there's no fees, so, yeah, either way would work.
The only reason I bring it up is I'm looking more future, and just say that we want to do something with Parks and Rec, one of those latent powers, to my understanding, that we could look into. And when you partner with a local institution like Montecito Bank and Trust, which prides itself on working with public and private entities alike, it's just something that jumps to mind. Is I'm not looking just about today and seeing how much money we could save or get an interest. It's more about who can be really a better service to this board and our constituents moving forward. And I'm thinking a couple years down the road. It's just a comment. It's just an idea. I mean, I have, I don't want to create a mountain out of a molehill by any means.
I do think it's a good point. Director Redfern, do you have any feelings about that?
I think we need to go to where who's going to give us the best deal. I just see us spending a lot of money everywhere, and if we could save a little, I think we should be trying to save it. You would think that the local banks would want our business.
Did you send them wanting our business and was trying to work?
Yes, yes. Montecito would be more than happy to take us as a customer.
And the fees would be if we didn't maintain a certain balance?
Yes.
There wouldn't be transaction fees?
Well, there are fees, but if we have a high enough balance, then those fees are offset by the earned credit that we get and the interest that we earn. So we wouldn't have any fees there either. So.
This option doesn't preclude us in the future, like Mr. Van Pelt brought up. We can go to Montecito Bank and Trust. Okay, this is what we'd like to do. Right now, 5 Star's been a pretty good piece of machinery running very smoothly. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And it also saves us labor time, because she can put those checks in the bank and not have to run to Montecito Bank.
Yeah, I agree. Although Montecito Bank may offer that in the near future, if we find out that's the reason people don't convenience is big. But I prefer going local, but the thing that I prefer even more is to do the one that makes sense and you are comfortable with, Wendy, because you're responsible for us in that department and our finance committee. So the people who have the most experience in this now all recommend the 5-star. That's convincing me that that's how I should vote.
And I think it's very, Madam President, we went, as I said, question to Wendy, she felt she's been juggling with these banks over time and she's very comfortable with 5-star. We basically said, we rely on your expertise on this.
After looking at it all. Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy with Montecito Bank also, but I think we already have our money and they're just saying, there isn't going to be an adjustment, for how much money you have in the bank. We're not charging any of these.
And we do have a big account with them already. And so they have our information, our numbers, all that relationship. So
And we can always look at it and change later.
yeah, if we have something specific, yes.
Montecito was predicated on the credit we get by our amount of funds. And we are going to have over time, as Mr. Our gentleman here presented to us, we're going to have hills and valleys in our savings for a while. So that's just more of a ripple, more task for you to figure out. We've got a fee charge as much because our balance went down. As we just leave it alone with 5-star, we know it's clean and allows you to concentrate on other things. It's already running like a smooth Swiss watch. And you can take your time and your efforts and apply it somewhere else. And if we do have funds, throw it at us and maybe that's the time for Montecito.
Yes, and they can come court us as well.
Yeah.
They know we were interested. If they find we went to a different bank, they may want to represent us and have our money at their bank. And so I say move forward, but I agree with you, Director Van Pelt, when we can work with local people, that's always better in a lot of ways. Yes, Director Redfern.
Somebody may have already said this, but the offer that 5-star makes us, we can't present that also to Montecito and say, look, we'd like to go with you. Can you match this? And if they say no, then they say no.
They would match it if we had a big enough balance.
That is what Wendy was saying was her final thing. And the big enough balance is $185,000.
No, that's in the checking. So we have to have like 500 and some thousand in a money market account, and then in the checking have $185,000.
They can say yes, we'll match it, and they'll find a fee 6 months down the road, a year down. Oh, by the way, there's 5-star's been clean with us, have they not? I mean, when you deal with a bank, when you deal with numbers, you can juggle them any way you want. I think I've heard nothing but very positive things about 5-star, and Montecito is excellent. It's as good, but is there enough incentive for Montecito to take our account? I don't see that.
No, I don't think you have to convince Director Redfern, Director Van Pelt. We're asking the questions of you guys, but I think we're very happy to go with your recommendation.
Isn't going to give us the interest rates, everything to that.
That I don't know. I didn't ask that. Their interest rate, right now, in the checking and the money market, or actually in the checking would be 0.014%. I didn't ask them what the balance is in the money market. I could entertain that idea and say,
We're earning, but there are investments. They do our investments also with funds.
Who?
That's
The CD.
No, the CDs are separate. They just give us the interest rate that the LAIF would get, but it's compounded monthly instead of quarterly.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other banks haven't been able to match that. I mean, I haven't
That's why I'm
specifically.
saying we don't want to move that $4 or $5 million because we'll give you a good rate from them. So it doesn't make sense to move all of our money over to Montecito is what I'm getting at.
I didn't get that, and I don't remember the number, but do you remember off the top of your head how much interest we earned on our CD last year?
It was based on the percentage, I don't remember.
I'm remembering it to be in the hundreds of thousands. I could be wrong, like 100,000, 200,000.
No, we had two CDs, one was 150,000, they were both 150,000 to start, and then we just left the interest in there. I think at the highest rate, it was when the interest rates were really good. It was like possibly 1.85%, I think.
I think that's when we went
Yeah.
to them. So maybe the numbers I'm thinking of was the total we invested, not how much we earned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So-
they beat everybody as far as what we could make on that.
Right.
Nobody else was even a close second. Okay, well, yeah, I think we're all clear that we're open to Montecito at some point, but right now we want to accept the recommendation of staff and the finance committee. I'm looking for a motion to approve, get the wording here.
It's just to approve the district's funds.
To authorize staff to bring a resolution to open a new bank account, to open new bank accounts with the approved financial institution. So I would need a motion that does that. I'm done.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, so Director D'Ambra made a motion to authorize staff to bring back a resolution to open new bank accounts with the approved financial institution, which is 5-Star. And it was seconded by Director Redfern.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director D'Ambra and a second by Director Redfern to authorize staff to bring back a resolution to open bank accounts at 5-Star Bank. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director D'Ambra?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Director Redfern?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and Mr. Battles, are you still on the phone?
I still on the phone.
Okay, this would be a good place to give legal counsel's report while we have you for these first two items.
Okay, great. Couple of items. One, a report on a recent Brown Act case. And this one involves a couple of nonprofits, New Livable California is the lead plaintiff, and also community venture partners. They're nonprofits that focus on housing and land use issues in general. They do the Association of Bay Area Government alleging a Brown Act violation, and the Brown Act section in question is 549532, which says that the legislative body of the agency shall publicly report any action taken and the vote or abstention on that action of each member present for the action. So it doesn't say, that code section doesn't say that the report on the vote has to necessarily occur at the board meeting. It's reflected in the minutes. And I think it sometimes be cumbersome after it's effective in the roll call vote. To not only say that the action passes, but then to publicly announce what the vote was. And so I've always felt that if you include that information in the minutes, you're complying with this code section. But in this case, the agency in question, the Association of the Area Government, apparently didn't do what it was supposed to do with reporting this in the minutes or otherwise. So the first problem was that rejecting a motion was vote of vote by a show of hands. And then they reported the show of hands as a voice vote in the minutes. And then secondly, they approved the motion to call the question by a show of hands. And they report that in the minutes all. And then they adopted an amended motion by a roll call vote that was reported in the minutes of the vote. That listed the name and vote of each member present with no abstention for the name of the absent members. So they did the things that they were supposed to do. One of the out was that if you look at the legislative history for the code section, which went into effect in 2014, relatively new requirement under the Brown Act, so this wasn't a vote. The reason given for this code section was a problem that had occurred with this very same governmental agency, the Association of State Area Governments, back in 2012. And in that case, they had stated the vote, and it was difficult to determine who voted for or against the action, because there's, I guess all the report said was there's 27 A's and 5 nays without looking at the votes of the individual members. So the agency like that, it's very difficult to figure out who was voting for which direction. But it is interesting that legislation was passed to address the problem by the agency in 2012, hearing out a court of appeals case in 2020 it was, where they violated the requirement that was put in place to address the problems previously. And I report on this just to remind you that there is this requirement that is important that we do a public report. I think that Jenny has always done a good job of including in the minutes the votes and the abstentions and members absent. So just to be mindful of that requirement. Lisa Brown actually to call to your attention. Any questions on that or comments?
No, if I understood, it's just that some people got in trouble because they weren't saying who voted how. And I agree, we do a great job with that. Wendy records who did what, who made the motion, who seconded it, and the whole works. So that's accountability, and I like it. So any other questions or comments?
Hopefully most of you know that on March 11th, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act, which provides $1.9 trillion in relief. And you may know that SYCSD was very actively involved, encouraged the legislators to include special districts explicitly as recipients of that aid. That they were not included in earlier stimulus packages. For example, special districts couldn't receive stimulus protection plan loans and things like that. They, all that businesses could, but the district wasn't defined as a business, and so they were not able to apply for that. So this time around, CSD really fought hard and letter writing campaigns, et cetera, to have special districts expressly included. That didn't happen, but did happen under the American Rescue Plan Act is that the money that is allocated to the state and to cities and counties can be redistributed to special districts. There is the authority to transfer those funds, which is something you can almost laugh at because they wanted the senior county ever transfer the funds to a special district. What isn't clear from what I've read at this point is whether the money is transferred, if the transfer is approved, is transferred after it already goes to the senior county, or whether the state can direct that transfer before it gets into the hands of the cities or counties, which could be helpful. But just something to be aware of, and it's something to think about. The district may have incurred costs to in response to the pandemic, personal protective equipment, non-reimbursed unemployment charges, paid leave, things like that. Any costs that are incurred by health orders to use or help with equipment. They can look to cover that. Customers that have been paying or in arrears, that's something that we could potentially recover. So I have to call that to your attention. I don't know that there really are expenses that have incurred, but something you might want to consider. And then I think there's going to be guidance coming out regarding what the process would be for applying for those funds from the state or from the county. One thing CSDA is doing or plans to do is implement an advocacy campaign with districts and legislators, and basically urging the state to utilize its authority to provide for transfers to special districts. So they
Well, I'm sure Director or Manager Acosta encourages our Secretary Treasurer to work with CSDA and stay on top of that. And if we are able, if we are entitled to any of the money, that we will apply.
There should be grants that we may be able to apply for, as I said, Santa Barbara, got 86 million.
The city of Santa Barbara?
Or the county of Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay.
Got 86 million. Small land got over a million.
Well, when it comes to showing damages of what we spent, we didn't have a lot of additional expenses. We had a few.
Our expenses were very minimal. We bought a couple of things of PPE, some cleaning wipes, temperature gauge, but that's it. We had no staff downtime. We had no staff absenteeisms. We had no, our financial revenue stream has not been impacted based off of how we collect our revenues. So we're sitting pretty well, and we probably don't need to make a submittal. If we do, Wendy and I will discuss that, and we will be in contact with the proper authority. So I did read the same article that Rick was talking about, so we are familiar with this process as well, if we need.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Rick?
That's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we'll talk to you next month. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move to the Horizon Drive Mainline project updates. Manager Acosta, can you take us through item C?
Yes, we'll go through the Horizon Drive project updates. When we get to the easement, that's where we'll have some discussion and recommendation at that point. At the February 17th board meeting, your board did authorize an additional $7,500 to the contract with Hamner, Jewell and Associates to continue the easement procurement process. So I want to point that out, the fiscal implications. Getting down to the discussion on the loan application, there is no update on the status of the SRF loan through the state. Staff is waiting for the state to start ranking the project, and based off of the ranking is where we would qualify for financing through that. We've received a score high enough to almost guarantee us that we would receive financing, but in the priority scheme of things, the ranking would prioritize us. So we're waiting for that to be distributed and put out for the public to see. After release of the invitation to bid, which was released today for the bid of the project, staff will be reaching back out to CSDA to get a new term loan sheets. And so we're hoping to get that and bring that to the April board meeting for the board to approve. And that'll be based off of the decision that the board makes when we get to the easements. So at that time, we'll also have to approve a resolution allowing the board, the district to be reimbursed from the proceeds of the loan for any past costs, which are soft costs like engineering firms, planning firms, designs, and those things could be reimbursed through the loan as well. Same resolution we approved for the SRF loan back in, I want to say, September of last year. So get to the easements. Hamner, Jewell and Associates have been working very hard at trying to get the last two easements procured. Staff and a representative from Hamner and Jewell did conduct a visit with one of the residents a couple weeks ago. There was discussion and dialogue, concerns and suggestions were made. The district went back, compromised, and implemented some of the suggestions into the plans and specs for the easements. At this time, such as moving the easement over a couple feet to avoid their whole total line of fencing, and maintaining that we're still within the lining of the project. So just a small adjustment to the easement, but that is something that we did do. We talked about how we would approach the reconstruct the approach to their property. Currently, there's some broken asphalt at the property. We initially had put in the bids to replace that all with new asphalt, which was a cost that we're no longer going to do. We're going to replace it with the same gravel that's for 99% of that approach. So we'll replace that, and that's going to save a cost of about $10,000 just by removing that from there. And then they had concerns on start times at their property. And so we've had that same concern with other properties. So what we put into the bid documents, that is no work shall commence prior to 8 a.m. on any of the easements. So that will eliminate the possibility of them working before 8 a.m., disturbing the tenants or the residents on the easement. So we did include that as well. But I do have to report that one of the residents has obtained legal counsel, representation from legal counsel to review the offer package. And so we're waiting to see what their legal counsel has to report back to Hamner and Jewell. But at this time, the recommendation from Hamner and Jewell is that no correspondence be made with the residents at this time, that the correspondence needs to go through the resident's legal counsel. So if there is any correspondence or you guys get any questions or Wendy gets any questions, we are to direct it towards Hamner and Jewell or myself, which then we would route through their legal counsel. The other resident has expressed that they do not want to sign the offer sheet at this time. So what I'm asking is for the board to consider a special closed session meeting next week to discuss this, discuss the easement, which we would invite legal counsel and invite Hamner and Jewell back to, and we get direction on how to proceed.
Which property?
So we still are waiting for Ms. Larson and the Harts to sign theirs.
Which property is represented?
Mrs. Larson has obtained legal counsel. So at this time, at the end of this, I'd like the board to make a recommendation to
Which ones?
the Harts. Yes.
Okay, well, then we will have a meeting and decide how we want to proceed and have some hard deadlines that we want to meet.
Yes.
Okay,
So, and at the end of this report, yes, at the end of this report, we'll make that recommendation. So, I'll move on to the monitoring wells. I do want to report that the monitoring wells are put into place. Staff monitors them on almost a daily basis. After that last storm, I did report that we had a high water table. We're dropping down pretty substantially now. We're down about 19 feet at the water level. So we anticipate that by the time we get to the project, that will be below the 30, at the 30 feet or below where it's initially drilled.
You know, Mr. Costa, the deepest the line will have to be dug to put the pipe in
Yes.
at the lowest point.
So the lowest point will be closest to the intersection of Refugio and Horizon Drive. And that's at about almost 24 feet depth. And at that monitoring well, at that location, we have not had any standing water, and that's drilled at 30 feet. So at that location, we haven't experienced any groundwater at 30 feet. But it's in the middle of Horizon where that water seems to collect, and we see it dropping at this time. So when we get to the construction dates, we're anticipating that we won't have an issue with dewatering. But just for the concerns of any dewatering, that was also built into the bid documents, that there is a bidding, they must include a bid line item for dewatering if needed. Yes, if needed. So if they include, say, a hypothetical figure of 50,000 for dewatering, their contract would include that bid amount. But if we don't need it, then that would be reduced by that amount. On the engineering services, the special board meeting on March 10th, the board approved all the final documents to be released for invitation to bid, which that commenced today. Wendy has posted those on the website, and we're going to be releasing them to Santa Barbara News Press, Santa Maria Times, and the San Ynez paper as well. We're also, Canon Engineering will be also submitting a quote for construction management services, and this will be presented to the board at the next meeting. One question that was brought up with discussion with legal counsel this morning is, could there be a conflict of interest having the same engineering firm conduct the construction management and the design of the project? And there's two sides of this coin, and the argument can be made for both sides. My thought process is the documents were reviewed by staff, they were reviewed by the board, and our input based off of our specs and our understanding of how we want it constructed was put into those documents. So we gave them direction on how the design should be put out and how the bidding should be put out. So I feel we've done enough work that we've provided good direction. Irregardless if it is Canon Engineering doing the construction management, they still have to run everything past us. If they want to do any change orders, if there are any increases in the fees, or if there's any design changes, it still has to come back to the district. And we would have that opportunity to review our specs and put recommendation in as well. So
They have to bid on that.
for construction management, what we can do is we can go out and get 3 quotes for construction management services. And we were discussing this earlier. We can reach out to 3 firms, bring back 3 quotes. And I say 3 quotes because as long as it's under $25,000, then we can go based off of quotes. If it's over $25,000, then we must go out for public bid. So I'm gonna go out and try to obtain 3 quotes for the services, and then hopefully they remain under 25,000. Bring that back to the board for approval. Well, just approve the services based off of the figure if they're under 25,000.
Well, I'm making both sides of the argument. I can see why it would be helpful using somebody who is in-house, who's worked with us, who's working with them. But the counter argument would be the cozy relationship between the different departments at Canon, and they would be more interested in protecting themselves than our project. That's the conflict. But I hear what you're saying, and I think we're going to be project managing the project manager.
Yes, we would be overseeing all. Basically, you are right. We're project manager, but there's a construction manager. So that's what we're looking for: across construction management services. Someone who's there daily, understands the technical side of it and the engineering side of it.
Right, but that is the counter.
That is the
argument.
counter.
Yeah,
that is exactly the counter argument that was presented. No, we do not yet. What I am going to be requesting is a time and services agreement or amount to be bid. Give me a time and services, an hourly rate for your construction management and for your firm. I'll bring those figures back because my goal is to not have a construction manager on site every day, all day. There will be points in time when the construction manager must be present. There will be interaction that can be completed over email, through telephone calls, so that will minimize having to have them there as well. So if I get an hourly rate and a firm, the associates in the firm that have to communicate, then I will bring that back.
Okay.
Okay, so that concludes this report. As I mentioned, what I'm looking for is a recommendation for Wendy to go back, set up a special closed session board meeting for next week and discussing the easements.
Okay, this is also a good time maybe to see if Gary has questions.
Yes,
do
please.
you have any questions or comments, Gary? Oh,
Yeah, there we go. No comments, questions other than why are they stalling to give the easements? And I guess I can't go over there and bug them.
well, you can do what you want. You're a private citizen, but staff is going to let the people we hired do their thing now. But yes, Director Redfern.
Just on the meeting next week, we have 2 4-hour classes, I believe, next week. And throwing another closed session on top of that seems like a lot.
Could we attach our special meeting to one of the training sessions? Because even though it's an important issue, we may be able to dispose of it pretty quickly.
So, Wendy, what we discussed was your guys' trainings are Wednesday and Thursday from 1 to 4. If we had the special closed meeting session at 4:30, we'll give you half an hour to decompress, get a quick break, and then get back in here, if that's the interest of the board.
I like that.
I do understand it does prolong the day, Mr. Redfern, but I think we need to get on this and get it resolved as soon as possible so we can move forward. We have the bid documents out there. We don't want to delay that. If we need to make a adjustment on that, we should make it as soon as possible. And we should give direction to the easement.
Okay, well, would that work for you, Director Redfern? Well, I'll get you a second, Gary. If we did it after the Wednesday training.
Yeah, I guess it just seems like getting a, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, and Gary, did you have something?
Just since that's a closed meeting, I won't be there, but can anyone say what seems to be the problems with the easements? Is it money? Is it location on their property? Is it they're just being obstinate?
You'll have to use your imagination or talk to them yourself, because we had one closed session about this already, and we're going to have another one. But people do things for all kinds of reasons. And just my point of view and what I've witnessed so far, I think the district has been very fair and helpful. So, yeah, we really have been over backwards. So I'm anxious to move forward so you can't have a couple of people stopping a project that is for the good and the safety of the community. But yeah, they have the right to appeal and to fight it. And we have a right to do our job.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't give you more information. Okay, any other comments before we move on to the next? Oh yeah, we need a recommendation. Okay, so now what I need to do is ask for, like to read the recommendation.
So there is no recommendation written. If you'd like to say it, I can.
Okay, well,
So what I need is recommendation to direct staff to set up a special closed session board meeting for next Wednesday, March 24th, 16:30 or 4:30 p.m. to discuss the easements.
okay. Okay, well, then we can say, if nobody opposes to that, beyond, I know it's a lot of time, Director Redfern, but do you agree that it's okay to move forward and have staff set that up for after our Wednesday training?
Yeah, if everybody else is good with it, I guess, yeah, I'm not gonna hold things up.
We'll have to check with legal counsel again.
Okay, but the board has authorized you, directed you to do this, so
Yes.
very good.
So if Wednesday doesn't work, will Thursday work? The same time?
It would for me after either.
If we're gonna do it, Wednesday works best for me.
Perfect.
Okay, then we can move on to item D, which is review and approve the draft newspaper. So I can turn that over to you, Director, or I keep calling you Director, Manager Acosta, Mr. Acosta.
So we bring back the newsletter that was presented at last month's board meeting. We made some of the changes. We're presented for the board input and approval. We did want to put in some of the fiscal implications. The mailing cost is approximately $593. The cost to fold the newsletter is approximately $40. The cost for envelopes is approximately $325. So you're looking at about $956 for total cost for sending out this newsletter. Attached to the newsletter, which will be presented and mailed out annually to the residents. This newsletter is inclusive of the one-sided, one-page double-sided with keep pipes out of the pipes newsletter, Horizon Drive update. It has the rate study announcement. It has sandbags information. It has our fall program, has an employee preview, and it also has news regarding the decision the board has made regarding the rates that will be sent out to the public.
I have a comment on the uniform policy our general manager allows here.
He's got steel-toed boots on the back.
I have a comment on the uniform policy our general manager allows.
Okay, I hate to micromanage, but I'm just throwing this out here. What do you think about putting the sewer, special sewer rate surprise where the Horizon Drive new sewer rate information, see back page box?
So the notes I took from last meeting was to put a note on the front that said, please review the announcement on the back. So that would hopefully get them to read the whole newsletter, not just see that and toss it.
No, I get that. So, and I remember that maybe the sewer rate surprise could be the enticement to look on the back.
Here, I think it's money.
Yeah, it's a for new sewer rate information, see back page. That says it, but this is kind of winky, like, hey, check this out. And so I think the check it out thing should be there.
Are you guys looking at a newsletter?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Well, we can't see it.
it's in your packet.
It's in the packet? All right.
Yes.
Under
72.
Couldn't really get to show on the screen that way.
So are we providing direction to change it from where it says for newer sewer rate information feedback to say something different, or do we want to move that whole section to the front?
Oh, just the headline and leave everything, but just instead of for new sewer rate,
Put that verbiage in there?
yeah. Or somebody can word it differently if they want, but special sewer rate surprise,
Okay,
being the grab, the hook on the front for them to see what the surprise is.
okay, so we'll change that language on the front to make it seem more of a surprise. And then they can still review the back of all the information.
Yes,
And then we should put sewer rate information where the special sewer rate surprises on the back.
Yes.
That way they know where to go to.
yes.
Put some dollar signs in there. Everybody's attracted when they see dollar signs.
Okay, but I think you guys did a great job. I think it's good, helpful information. So what we need from the board is to direct staff to do it. Review and provide staff direction. I think we have reviewed it, and the direction is just maybe flip that one header, and everything else is great.
Perfect.
Anything from anyone else on the newsletter? No? Okay, so we can just direct staff, and I don't think we need to vote for that. Okay.
Okay.
Then we shall go on to number E, the CSDA Board of Directors and Directors call for a nomination seat for the Coastal Network. So we talked about this last time,
Yes,
and there was not interest for any of the current board to do it, but if you want to discuss it some more, we can.
if the board elects not to discuss it, and there's no nominations from the board, we do not need to discuss it. But if there is, then we need to make a disclaimer and have the discussion. But are there any nominations from the board who want to put their name in to be considered for the CSDA seat?
What this is, Director Van Pelt,
Mhm.
we would have someone representing us, but in order to win, you have to do a little campaigning, not a whole lot, unless you're somebody who already has an established reputation with the people who are going to be voting, which are all the CSDs, right, are all going to vote for different CSD members. There's the cemetery board, the different wastewater CSDs.
Mhm.
So if you wanted to do that, we would discuss, if you wanted to do it, we'd be willing to nominate you. And what's a couple meetings a year or quarterly?
It's a couple meetings a month up in Sacramento, actually.
Okay,
So
2 a month. So it's pretty demanding time-wise. But if it's something you wanted to pursue, we would support you in that.
Well, I do travel up north quite often. I would only consider it if would be beneficial to our CSD and that the other board members would like to, or like for me to pursue it. I wouldn't mind throwing my hat in the ring to see exactly what kind of traction we get. I don't think it could be harmful. It does sound like a commitment, but I'm up there all the time in the general region.
I think you would be an excellent applicant because you're already traveling north a lot, but also it would be good. You would be on a crash course. You would learn a lot about CSDs, and you would represent our district. And so it would be beneficial. Getting elected would be the tough part, but not that tough. I was nominated last year and I didn't put any work into it. I filled out the form and sent it in. And maybe I would have done as poorly had I went to every district. But the person who won came and presented and gave a public comment at our meeting. And he went to every district and said, hello, I'm Craig, and I would like to do this. So, it doesn't hurt you or cost you anything if you're willing to do it, and you may not be selected, or you may. It would be good for us. I think it would strengthen you as a board member, and it would definitely be good for us. So, did we say this is a conflict or not if Bradley's here?
If he's interested, he needs to leave the meeting. And then you have to discuss it, nominate him, and then vote on it. But just so you know, Director Van Pelt. You also have to.
Hold on real quick, Wendy. Before we go on to the staff report, which Wendy's gonna go into, Mr. Van Pelt, is when you put your nomination in, you can listen to the staff report, but once there's discussion on your nomination, if there is any discussion and the voting, you're gonna have to recuse yourself and move and leave the meeting during the discussion period. So while Wendy's reading the staff report or going off the staff report, there could be no discussion until we get ready to have that discussion. At that time, you'll have to leave the meeting.
Okay, we're talking about staff report.
Can't you just mute him out? Can't you just mute him out so that he knows when to come back in?
No, he has to be able to leave the meeting because there's opportunity that the mute button could be turned on, the microphone could be turned on as well.
How will he know to come back in?
We can call him.
Yes,
Okay.
and we'll also try and make it brief. But when you talk about staff report, which staff report are you talking about?
So
Because
it's item 7E,
yes.
CSDA board. So there's a staff report here included on there.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant the reports down lower. Okay, I got you.
Does this have to be discussed at this meeting? Because I probably should, considering I have a wife, I probably should, run by anything and ask her before I really truly throw my hat in the ring on whether she agrees with me extending any travel to the Sacramento area outside of the Bay Area. So is it something that has to be decided today, or can that be decided at a future meeting next week?
If we have a special meeting next week, we can do that then, but you have to have your candidate statement and the nomination and the minute resolution submitted no later than the March 29th.
Well, this kind of works because he's going to be in for a special meeting and two training things. So that gives you plenty of time to discuss it with your spouse.
Yep.
So Wednesday, we could just add on the special meeting a brief agenda item. If Bradley tells us that he's interested in it, you'd be able to let Wendy know early next week.
Yeah, I could communicate with my wife and get her viewpoint. She'll be surprised.
You can confirm your nomination right after we're done with the staff report as well, because there could be stuff in the staff report that changes your mind as well, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. So we're going to go ahead and do the staff report.
Yes.
Okay. And so we're not going to deal with this. We're moving on from the nomination at this point.
No, we're gonna do the staff report, and then at the end of the staff report, he'll confirm his nomination.
But so you're saying he should talk to his wife in this next 15 minutes?
Nope. Well, I guess he would have to,
Yeah, if he's going to want to do it, he's
So
only going to want to do it if his spouse feels like it's something that works for them. And
we can just discuss it so he knows what he's getting into.
okay, no, that's good.
So
And then bring it back.
so we can make the staff report and not take any nomination right now.
Right, so he can be part of hearing it.
Yes,
Okay,
okay.
I've got that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that.
So I'm gonna go ahead and, I'll let Wendy go ahead and explain the requirements and what's needed and the commitments for, this position. So go ahead, Wendy.
Okay, so the CA is actually on the California Special Districts Association Board of Directors in Sacramento. And they're right down from the Capitol building. And you would be, if you were elected, you would be nominating, or you would be representing the 6 geographical networks. And if you look at the map that's attached to the staff report, you can see the coastal network and what areas that includes. So it's Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis, Kern, Monterey, Kings, Tulare, Inyo, Fresno, Madera, Merced, Mariposa, and San Benito counties. You would have to attend 4 to 5 meetings annually at the CSDA office. One committee, you have to be on one committee that meets 3 to 5 times a year at the CSDA office as well. And then you have to at least attend the special district's legislative days and the CSDA annual conference. And special district legislative days is usually held in Sacramento. And the annual conference flops between Monterey and Anaheim or down by Palm Springs. And then you also have to complete all 4 modules of the Special District Leadership Academy, which next week you guys will be taking module 1 of that, and there's 4 modules. CSDA does reimburse for your travel expenses and your hotels and your meals, following their guidelines. We do, the prior general manager was on the board, and he would drive to Burbank and fly from Burbank to Sacramento and stay in a hotel, and CSDA does reimburse the district for all that. We do have to pay those costs up front, and then you keep your receipts, and then you send them to me, and then I send in the claim form, and then they reimburse the district. The voting will take place electronically. You'll know by July, the votes have to be done by July 16th. You'd be notified by July 20th. And the annual conference is in May in Monterey, and it's held in August. So that is one that you do have to attend. That's required.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that rundown. It's definitely wise for me to consult with my wife before I move forward. But I think it sounds very interesting. And I think, as Director Jones said, it kind of would supercharge my understanding and I think also my ability to contribute to our CSD. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And so just to be clear, Director Van Pelt will get back to the board, and and then we can do the nomination at one of the special meeting.
So what we'll do is we'll place it on the agenda to reintroduce this staff report at the special meeting. And at that time, he can reiterate if he does want to nominate himself or not.
Okay, well, we would nominate him. He would volunteer,
yes.
and then we would, or we wouldn't. We don't have to jump to anything here. Although I think you're a strong candidate. But,
for as novice as I am and young I am, I hope.
Yeah, it'll be good. But yeah, talk to your family.
Yeah.
And we will get an answer from you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Mr. Acosta. So now we move on to, okay, this is a biggie. F, approval of Solvang's final invoice for fiscal year 2019-2020. So I will turn that over to our manager, Jose Acosta, but we will also, this will be good. You'll learn a little more about what you were asking earlier.
Yep.
Okay, so the district has a contractual obligation and agreement with the city of Solvang to treat the district's wastewater flows. And based on those flows, percentage-wise is what we pay for all operation and maintenance of the city of Solvang's wastewater treatment plants. Any capital projects that are valued over $50,000, we have a cost share of 20%. So the fiscal implications this year are that the district will pay $89,352 in balance to the city of Solvang. We currently send payments of $20,000 a month, an equal of $240,000 annually as a deposit towards this. Some years it has come in less than $240,000. Most years it has come in over $240,000. So we pay the balance at the end. Attached is the report reflective of all costs associated with the wastewater treatment plant at the city of Solvang. And the following amounts are reflective of these obligations. The total annual expenditures came out to $250,973. The administrative fees were $49,680, and all capital costs under $50,000 were $14,308. And when we had the dialogue regarding the capital cost over 20%, there was one wastewater treatment plant upgrade in the amount of $14,391. The final invoice has been presented for review by the Finance Committee as well at their March 11th meeting. At that meeting, I presented several questions that I had that were going to be directed to the city of Solvang, and the Finance Committee also gave me a couple questions to take back to them. A lot of the questions were line items within the documented detail report and charges that the city of Solvang sent over. I got satisfactory answers. And there's also been a couple adjustments to the bill based off of the inquiries that I made with the city of Solvang. I do want to reiterate that I've looked over this report twice. Wendy's looked over it a couple of times as well. Finance committee has reviewed it thoroughly, and we had a great discussion on it. At this time, I'd like to see if there are any questions based on the review of the remaining board members and anything that you may have noticed in the report as well, please.
I would like to hear from the finance committee. What jumped out at you? Anything? What were we higher or lower or?
It was all minor things. There was some charges that said instead of wastewater, water. So it might have been water department and got a bit of finance in it. And I think it was.
I will review the three things that were adjusted based off of our inquiries. So the previous amount was adjusted based off of a cell phone charge for one of the water departments, and those were in the amounts of $21.62 and $6.93. Minimal amounts, but still amounts that needed to be adjusted. There was also the presentation of the emissions fee to the Santa Barbara County for one of their lift stations at Alisal. That's not inclusive of what we should be paying. That was in the amount of $459.31. So that was removed as well. And then there's a fee in there for the CCR, which is your consumer confidence report. Your consumer confidence report is strictly based off of your water, which you send out annually to your consumers, so they understand what's in their water, what's being done to their water. So we presented that as a fee that we should not have to pay. And so that was $94.31, which was removed from the bill as well. So the total that was removed from the bill was $582.17. With our cost share, we had $116 lowered on our bill as well. So I do want to reassure that we did go through this, find all those inaccuracies that said water or may have been coded differently, and we presented those, and the answers were presented. For example, there are some in here for charges to Harrison Hardware that may say water, but that's based off of total invoices that were sent over, and the cover letter said water, but they review them to see which ones pertain to wastewater. So those charges are just a portion of the overall package that was submitted through Harrison at that time. So those are just some of the small things that we noticed, but we did question them. We did take all this back, and we are looking out the best interest of trying to save the district money as well. So.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Are any questions or discussion from anyone else on our final bill of Solvang? Yes, Director
I think it's been previously discussed that we have a really good relationship currently with Solvang. Correct? There's no tough feelings. I mean, we want to keep them very close,
right.
Close as possible right now.
I do not think there's any animosity. I think our current makeup of both the board, the staff here, I think we have very positive relationship. Several years ago, there was some tension, and I think that's just gotten better, and I'm not aware of anything now. I think everybody seems very cordial and working together.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
And how about you, Director Redfern? Any questions or comments before we move on? Okay, and I see Jay Freeman is in the house. Is there anyone who wanted to comment from the public on our final bill of Solvang? And I see no one. So what I would do at this point would ask for a motion to approve the final invoice for City of Solvang fiscal year 2019-2020. And what is the total amount, Wendy? Here we go. Approve the final invoice of $89,352 for the City of Solvang for the fiscal year 2019 and 2020 years. Director Beard has made the motion to approve the final invoice. Is there a second?
Second.
Director D'Ambra seconded that motion. Wendy?
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director D'Ambra to approve the city's of Solvang's final invoice for fiscal year 2019-20 and the amount of $89,352. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard, Director D'Ambra, Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Redfern,
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Very good. And I see here that we do not have any informational items. So I'm going to go to 9, the manager's report. Mr. Acosta.
Yes, so I provided several projects, things that we worked on throughout the month. Communicated with the city of Sullivan, city administrator and staff regarding the request from the board to reform the joint wastewater committee on both ends. The request was made, the letter was sent over to the city administrator. It was mentioned at their last council meeting that we have that interest, but it was not placed on the agenda. So it's gonna be placed on their agenda for this coming Monday to have a discussion, dialogue, and make a recommendation on their end. At that time, we'll have an update. And if they move forward with it, we'll schedule a meeting. If they decide not to move forward with it, we still schedule a meeting with our staff and our board present and invite anybody interested from the city of Sullivan to attend that as well.
Okay.
Then the city of Sullivan did award the contract for the aeration system project that's going to be starting out at the wastewater plant here soon. It was awarded to Cushman Contract Construction at their March 8th council meeting. There will be a pre-construction meeting at the wastewater plant on May 6th. CSD staff will be present for that meeting as well and listen to any concerns and comments made by the contractor and for both parties, the district and the city of Sullivan. Sorry. I believe you can go to that meeting, yes. Staff has been working on registering the board for their CSDA meeting, so we're scheduled to have the meeting on March 24th, 25th here in the board chambers. We'll be presenting it here. The meeting will be from 1 to 4 p.m. both days, and Wendy has received confirmation that we have been approved for the scholarship for all board members. So all costs associated with that are covered as of right now. So there is no cost to the district. We do pay the fees and then we get reimbursed based off of attendance. All 5 members attending would behoove of the CSD to have them in attendance and receive those funds as well. So,
thank you.
Been collaborating with the district engineer and legal counsel to finalize the documents that were presented for the final bid documents and drawings for the Horizon project. That's been an ongoing thing for the last month. Continue working with Hammer and Jewell. As I said, we did conduct a site visit on March 2nd to meet with one of the easement residents. We had good discussion, good dialogue, and like I said, we brought back the recommendation discussion and made some modifications based off of that dialogue as well. Staff worked on completing the final draft of the district newsletter. We did conduct a joint staff meeting with the city of Sullivan staff, wastewater staff, with our staff to discuss the projects that are going on at the wastewater treatment plant. For my general purposes, I was informed on what stage 1 was, what stage 2 was, and stage 3 was throughout the planning process. So it was something that I learned that, stage 3 is the recycled water portion of the project, which may not be completed based off of no need for recycled water in the area. But we did discuss other options as far as what they could do with that recycled water. So that was a good dialogue to have as well. They are looking at possibly going out with those other projects after the rate study. And from what I gathered from the city administrator is that their rate study may not be completed for a year. So maybe a year up until they complete the fee study or the rate study. So they won't be going out to get this information for the next phase of the project after that. But what Mr. Matt Vanderland, he is trying to recommend that they go prior to that. So maybe if they did release this and they did go into phase 2, if you have a contractor who's on site, they may give you a different rate based off of if they had to remobilize. So that was some dialogue that we had at that meeting. That was very great for the staff to get together and just have that basic dialogue, communicate, show we're cooperating and discussing these things. Clayton Tuckfield communicated with him on getting that final draft of the rate study presented for the board. Mr. Clayton Tuckfield has been very professional and very helpful in helping me understand the rate study and communicating with Wendy and I on getting this completed. So again, thank him for his work on doing that as well. Prepared for the special board meeting on March 10th and spoke with the city of Sullivan based off of the findings that I found within the building that they had with Mr. Jason Banton down there. Last thing I want to do is make a recommendation or ask the board to consider scheduling a personnel committee meeting to begin dialogue for negotiations with the bargaining unit. The contract, I do want to remind them, is that the contract does expire June 30th, and it may behoove to start the personnel committee meeting, so that way we could decide how we're going to move forward or how we're going to attack the negotiation process. Who's going to be involved? Are we going to need to contact our personnel council, our human resources council as well? So that's something that maybe the board wants to consider, is forming or getting a date set for a personnel committee.
Okay, well, I am on the personnel committee, so Wendy and I can work to get that scheduled.
Please, and at that time, please let her know if we need to have the human resources attorney in attendance as well, so that way we can decide how we're moving forward.
Yeah, maybe not at the first committee meeting. Maybe the committee, we should, I don't know that we need to involve the lawyer until after we have our first meeting and know how this is all gonna start.
Perfect, that
Okay.
makes sense. Let's be cognizant of the timeline here. We want to make sure we don't miss that June 30th timeline, because it can get tricky after that. So.
Right, okay.
Okay, and that concludes the manager's report for this month. Any questions?
I think you're doing a great job.
Yes.
Director Redfern, sorry.
I'm on that committee with you, aren't I?
Yes.
Personnel? Yes.
Yes.
All right.
So we will schedule something with Wendy. It won't be next week, Frank.
Good.
We'll try and, put it where it's a little.
I could just cancel the whole week. It's okay, and just come to the sewer district.
That is true, huh? Well, let me know if you want to go that way. Okay, very good job. Thank you. The one thing my impression, and I'd appreciate my colleagues giving feedback here. I think you do a really thorough job in your report, but I think the items that we discussed, you don't need a whole lot there. Yeah, because we discussed them. And you didn't. Staff worked on the newsletter. Yes, but it's good for you to see what you've done and keep a record of it. But the stuff that we've already talked about a lot. We can.
So I will list it still, but I will omit discussing it when I get to the staff report. That's fine.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but it's just, we can talk about it more some
Yeah.
other time. At the end of the meeting, it's hard to take in a lot of stuff. Okay, and we already got our legal counsel report, but I would like to hear from our Secretary Treasurer, Wendy Berry.
Yeah, all I have is conflict of interest. Forms are due April 1st, and everybody's set up to do it electronically through the South Coast posting through the county. So if you haven't done it and you forgot your password, I can log in to hit a link that will generate an email to reset your password if you guys need to.
Are you notified that we did it?
Yes.
I know that I have not done mine yet, and I know every time I do, I have to call you for help with the password.
The last email I got, you had not completed. But maybe you did it after that? I can check, because when you did it online?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can go in and see if you submitted it, and it will say submitted. If not, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
So if you need your passwords reset, just let me know. I'll reset it for you.
The committee reports, we have heard from the Finance Committee on a couple items. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, or any committee meeting that I'm not thinking of? I'm only aware of the Finance Committee. Anything else, or you think you covered it all while we were discussing it?
Yes.
Okay, well, if that's the case, let us move on to number 10, and I would ask if I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Before we adjourn, can I say
Sure.
something? Yeah, I just want to apologize to all directors, general manager, and secretary treasurer for being late today's meeting. It was a slight oversight by myself. I had some work issues, and I just want to let you all know I value your time, and I apologize for being tardy to this meeting.
Thank you. Apology accepted. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Director Beard, and it is seconded by Director Redfern.
And a motion by- and a second by Director Redford to adjourn the meeting at 7:41 PM. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director D'Ambra.
Yes.
Director Jones.
Yes.
Director Redford.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Passes.
Very, very good. Thank you, everyone. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you,
Thank
Director.
you.
Thank you, Director Van Pelt. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. See you
Have a
next
good
week.
night.
And I'll see you a bunch next week, Director.
Oh,
Redfern.
yeah.
Can't wait.
And this was the March 17th regular meeting.
Oh, so, no.
That way, because the,
Yes.
the first part of the meeting.
You got a match?
I get sloppy also. And by the time we get to the adjournment,
I have one question, actually.
yes.
Isn't there microphones that we could get for Jose and Wendy, and maybe David? I can hardly hear David. That would tie into this so we could hear him clearly.
I think that would be great.
Yes.
And it's not a big expenditure. I don't know how much you spend on that microphone, but you could,
We're gonna get some better microphones.
Yeah.
okay.
I looked into it at one site and then I was gonna look at Best Buy and then I got sidetracked. So,
No, I agree. I know everybody wants to get out of here. I'll let everybody go. But I'm going to play a little clip for Wendy and Jose, just so they can hear how muddled and muffled it is.
Yeah, some parts are and some aren't, but yeah. Okay, thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
maybe Jay can give us a recommendation.
It may be just need 2 more that's up there.
Yeah, we'll get some with the longer cord too, so we can put one over there.
Yeah.
Are you there, Jay?
To get my microphone.
Yeah. So do you have any, you don't have to do it tonight, but if you have any good ideas for microphones that work well. So you have any, you don't have to do it tonight, but if you have any good ideas for microphones.
Yes, one thing that I think might be going on is that because Wendy is far away from the microphone, that Zoom might be considering it to be that she's background noise, and that it's doing like trying to make Karen much easier to understand at the expense of everybody else. And the microphones will definitely help with that. I actually don't have a particularly good knowledge of random microphones. I mean, the big thing I'm going to mention is going to be concerning is that when you try to set up multiple mics, you're and trying to feed them through, I guess, a laptop into Zoom, it's going to be a little bit weird. One thing I've been kind of hoping is that my time might free up, and that I could, particularly since we're doing the, I guess we're switching down to red tier as of today, that be traveling around isn't slightly, I mean, a little bit might not be as much of a big deal, so I can bring you some stuff, because I've got like that like the 360 camera stuff with the mics in it. But if you can figure out a cheap Best Buy solution, you should just do that. Like, that makes total sense to me. Like, for as far as trying to get your audio to work a little bit better, like, just have something. So
I have a comment, Jay. I think what you said made a lot of sense about how Zoom tries to get rid of background noise. And I was considering that was a problem also. But I attended via Zoom in February one meeting, and Jose was at the same computer I use. And it still was very difficult to understand and hear him. Like, I'm clear when I'm sitting here, but when Jose was sitting here, and I don't have trouble hearing you when we're speaking, but for whatever reason on this, it's very hard to understand you. And I think it's a range thing. Like, whatever range your voice is at, this just muddles it. But it's, yeah, we put someone on the moon, we can fix it.
So Wendy will look for some microphones and we'll see what we can find, and we'll investigate and see if we can get a good one.
But I do look forward to seeing you, Jay, and also people just getting back to normal. That'd be great.
My first shot on set.
You did it, or you're going?
Going.
We're gonna get ours as soon as everybody else gets theirs. I mean, I've been in 4 states, I've traveled a lot, and I just don't feel in danger. But in certain situations, if I felt like I was, I would definitely get it.
Well, yeah, mine is not.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get it. Okay, well, bye-bye, Jay.
Bye, Jay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
All my vaccinated, and they're like,